Hey everybody, welcome. So this is our journaling workshop for the Grove Collection. We created this project because journaling has been a big part of our lives in the last few years, as the world seems to be deciding if it's going to rattle itself apart or not. And I think we're all having some of that own journey happening inside of us too. And journaling has been a really important thing for us to navigate that, to shore up our own ability to show up every day. And we started the Grove Collection because we wanted to get some of that going with everybody else and provide some tools for that. I just want to do a little bit of kind of here's how we'll run the webinar. So when we do the Q&A section toward the end, there's going to be a couple ways that you can participate. Everybody should have a raise hand button in their in their interface. If anybody wants to click that to test it right now, raising their hand, I will confirm that it is working. All right, there we go. Crystal, Paula, thank you for helping us test. And then I have this fancy button that makes everybody put all their hands down, which is something that I think every teacher wishes that they had.
Like the opposite of a DJ.
Yeah. Oh my God. Put your hands in the air. So like that, sorry, I'm gonna go on. You made me go on a tangent. Brian and I both have ADHD. Most of us, I think, on this present panel. So this is dangerous, but my grandma or my mother-in-law gave her grandson, my son, a card for Valentine's Day, and you open it up and it's a Valentine's Day bear singing, "Put your hands in the air and wave them like you just don't care." And then there's like other stuff after that. And you guys know how repetitive like a 4-year-old is, right? So like this card followed him around our house for weeks. So like on my deathbed, one of the last pieces of music that go through my brain is going to be this card, "Put your hands in the air." And like, it's just, anyway. All right, moving on. Moving on. The other way we can do the Q&A is going to be, there's actually a Q&A button. So if you prefer to just put something in via text, or if something comes up for you like right in the middle of the presentation and you want to get the question down before you forget, you can click on Q&A, you can put your question in there, all the panelists will see it. Maybe we'll answer it via text and just answer right in the context of the Q&A window, or we'll do a live Q&A at the end. The hand raising piece, what we'll do is we'll actually promote you to be a panelist so that you can ask your question. So you'll jump in and be part of the video call. And if for whatever reason video is not an option for you, or audio is not an option for you right now, you don't necessarily have to have your video on to do that. Then you can just use the Q&A window. So that's how we'll do the Q&A. And let's see here. Yeah, I think that's all of the rules of the road sort of housekeeping stuff. So I will go ahead and introduce our first presenter. So all of these folks here, by the way, are people that I have the pleasure of knowing on a personal level and having experienced their work or their story firsthand. So when I wanted to put this together, it was something that was going to be really fun, but also just to give you guys a resource. I know there's a lot of things that come up when you're wanting to start journaling, and the idea here isn't necessarily to say this is the right way to journal, because there is no one right way to do it. The idea here is to give you guys a bunch of seeds that you can water and grow however you want. And we've got a little bit of everything for you to choose from. So let's get started. Brian Hazard is a Brian is a licensed psychotherapist and addictions counselor. He's also a personal friend due to our shared board game addiction. So we spend a lot of time yelling at each other about whether small plastic things are where they're supposed to be, and enjoying all kinds of other lively debate. In addition to his personal story and his professional story, though, he created a really powerful addition to the bullet journaling community called the Frankenlog. And it's more or less his take on some of the concepts of how bullet journaling works, and boiled down into a really efficient way for him to organize his life and tasks and things like that. And he sort of updates it. So he'll share where you can follow along with the Frankenlog at the end of his presentation, but it's a living, breathing thing that changes a lot. So we get a snapshot today into where it's at right now. And as he continues to refine it, you can follow him for more. So Brian, take it away, man.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, Chad, thank you very much for letting me be a part of this. And, you know, Allegory Goods, of course. I know we planned all this ahead of time, but I do think it's funny, like, as one of us starts talking, the rest of us put on our like portraits and sort of slink into the background, and like all of a sudden you're all by yourself. So let me pin myself so I can see myself while I'm talking. My name is Brian Hazard. I'm a certified addictions counselor. I'm a licensed psychotherapist. I'm also a person in long-term recovery and an adult with ADHD. So bullet journaling was an incredible discovery for me. And the reason why I think bullet journaling is such a valuable thing to find, and why I think it's so important to journaling in the journaling community in general, is because it allows for some of us to be able to break through the resistance that we experience when we are trying to be organized, when we are trying to, whether that be journaling for the sake of organization or for mental health. I think we run into two things. One, what's the right way to do it, which I'm glad Chad touched on. There is no right way. And two, guilt for not doing it the way we decided we were supposed to. Here's the way I decided to do it, and I'm not doing it. As someone with ADHD, using a regular planner has always been a struggle for me because of the limitations of space, right? Like, so I would have a day that had a million things, but I couldn't fit them in. And then I'd have another day where I had nothing. So I have this big blank space in my organizer that's going to waste, and not enough room 2 days earlier for all the things I had to do. But it also, by learning about bullet journaling and starting to sort of incorporate it into my own life, I started to discover that the flexibility that allows me to sort of set myself free from the need to do things exactly the right way. The biggest faux pas, I think, mental health wise, when it comes to journaling, is this idea that we've discovered this great thing, and now that we've discovered it, we have to do it. And if we don't do it, then we're doing something wrong. It's almost as if we are less happy than we would have been if we had never discovered this new thing that could improve our life. So I say that to say that just because we do something that makes our life better doesn't mean that not doing it makes our life worse. Does that make sense? So it's the realization that there are things that we can do to improve ourselves or make ourselves feel more complete or more in the moment, but we are not ever technically required to do those things. And the perfectionism or the shoulding on ourselves, right, of saying I should be doing this and I'm not, so now I'm more upset than I was in the first place, that doesn't do us any good. So the reason that Frankenlog became a thing was it was my way of creating a bullet journal system that allowed me to have at least the least amount of resistance that I could have in order to be able to incorporate it into my life and make it something useful for me. I wanted something that would allow freedom and creativity while also creating some level of organization and a way to sort of see everything in one place. I'm a big fan of the idea of habit trackers, but if I put a habit tracker on a different page than my monthly spread or what I'm looking at from day to day, I'll forget to look at it. And then at some point I haven't tracked it, and what's the point of a habit tracker? So Frankenlog was my attempt, and let me see if I can share the love here a little bit. Frankenlog was my attempt to create something that was a sort of a combination of the things that I needed in my own life. It's a single spread that allows me to track what I need to do during a day, what I need to do during a week, what I need to do during a month, and any of the habits that I want to track, all in a single spread. And it was sort of created out of necessity when I had a much busier job than I do now. I used to be a vice president at a large treatment program. And so I had so many things to keep track of. And Frankenlog was my way to solve that. So the basic setup of it, and I won't get too much into detail on this because there's a website you can check into to see it for yourself. But the idea is that by putting it all in one place, it's always in front of me. I don't have to remember to turn to a certain page, and it's sort of a one-stop shop that I can not only see what I need to do in a given day, but I can also sort of plan what I want to do in the days to come. This is the basic setup of a Frankenlog, and you'll see that it looks very much like a calendar. The only difference being is that there is a box for every week along the left side, and there's even a box for this month and next month. And the way Frankenlog works is actually very simple. Instead of writing in the things that you need to do every day and every day that you need to do it, you simply write things down and assign those things a letter, and then put those letters into the days when you need to do those things. I know that sounds like makes no sense if you're not looking at it. So this is a picture of sort of one, in process, in use. And you'll see that there's a number of tasks that don't have letters next to them on the bottom. Those are just things I would like to do eventually, but some of them do have letters. So putting the garbage out always happens on Thursdays, but instead of having to write that every Thursday to remind myself, I can just put a letter next to it and then assign that letter to each Thursday so that I can see when that has to be done. That letter system is really flexible too, because if I have to reschedule something, I'm just moving a single letter instead of rewriting. And if I want to say that something needs to be done this week, but not on any specific day, I can put that letter over in the weekly box. Or maybe it's something that I have to have done by the end of the month, so I put it in the month box. Or I want to remind myself that it's something that needs to be done next week. I can write it down in this spread, but give it a letter and put it in the box for next month so that I'm aware at the end of the month to move that over. This system allows for a lot of flexibility because it lets me put many, many things in a single day without running out of room. And it allows me to not use space if I don't need it, and not to have just empty space wasted. Granted, you'll have a little space if you're using it this way, but not that much. The other thing that I incorporated into this is the idea of habit tracking in a monthly spread. And the way that I did this is by giving each habit a single line across one box in the grid. And that single line allows that habit to be tracked on each of those days. But by having different lines for different tasks, or for different habits, I should say, it creates a situation where I can track multiple habits in a single box. And if I finish them all, it actually makes a really cool star and makes what I, sort of earnestly called a star day, which, I thought sounded kind of cheesy, but I also really kind of grew on me, and I like that a lot. So by doing that, I was able to create a system for tracking weekly and daily habits by using a line in the box. And having a different sort of key at the bottom there. You'll see there's one that says exercise 1, 2, and 3. Those are for my weekly habits. And create, meditate, walk, and sleep 7. Those are my habits for my daily. And just by focusing on a certain line, like if I want to see which days I was being creative, I can just focus on that line and see where the patterns are. I like this too because it allows me to see which things were happening on the days when I did and didn't do my habits, and it helps me to make connections when I'm reflecting. I know I haven't touched on that a lot, but reflecting on what we write on is such a huge, important thing that we do with journaling or keeping ourselves organized. There's been tons of research on the benefits of journaling and the value to it. I promise you that if you keep a daily log and just write down the thoughts that you have throughout the day, I promise you that at the end of the day or the next morning when you look at it, there will be so many things in there that you would have forgotten, that you would have never come back to you. That's also why I really like the Ryder Carroll, the creator of Bullet Journal, has this monthly idea of every day he just writes one line of what happened that day. And it creates a fantastic sort of canvas of your month that you can go back and look at and smile as you remember the things that happened. But the flexibility of it, not just Frankenlog, but bullet journaling also means that you can do a lot of other things within that spread. For me, I keep extra room for tasks. And then on the other side of that little Dutch door, I write down every piece of media I start during the month. I'm amazed at how many things I don't finish, but I'm enjoying it, so that's okay. Who needs to finish a video game? But by doing this, it allows me to be more connected with my journal because I created this for myself. I think the best thing about bullet journaling in general, is to set ourselves free, to allow ourselves the freedom to do it in the way that's going to work best for us. I don't make 12 Frankenlogs at the beginning of the year. I make a new one at the beginning of every month because as Chad said, I constantly change it to what's working for me. Those habits get changed every month. The things I want to do and on what days I do them change every month. So it's that intimacy and flexibility that removes the friction, that allows me to write whatever I need to in there and not have to worry about where it's going. So I know I only have a little bit of time left here. I did want to mention that if you are more interested in Frankenlog, you can certainly go check out the website here at frankenlog.com. You can follow me on Instagram at bhasabujo. I will write the actual name of that in the chat. But most importantly, most importantly, but what I think is also important is connecting with the tools that you use. And that is part of the reason why I enjoy working with Chad and Jess at Allegory Goods. I have this fantastic leather cover that they made for me with my Frankenlog logo on there, and a really sweet pen that I use every day. And it's the tactile nature of the things that we use, using quality goods when we're working, again, makes us more likely to use those things and makes us feel like that connection is more important. So thank you again for letting me talk a little bit about Frankenlog, habit tracking, and connecting with your journal. You guys are in store for some other really fantastic speakers. And so I am going to sort of step away from the mic here and let you guys tune in to the next people. Thanks so much for letting me share.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Brian. And just a reminder, anybody, if you have any questions to clarify anything for Brian, you can put them in the Q&A section right now, and maybe he can shoot you an answer via text during the presentation in the Q&A section, or if you want to wait and raise your hand and be part of the live Q&A, we can do that too. So on to our next presenter. John Heston is somebody who means a lot to me personally. He's an executive coach, he's an author, a life coach, wrote a best-selling book called The Unlimited Self. And he and I connected a few years ago after running into each other in a Facebook debate, of all places, talking politics, and kind of connected around, being able to have perspectives with a little bit of nuance. And I just liked his whole style. And about 5 years ago now, Allegory went through one of its roughest patches, and I reached out to John as I had sort of followed him a little bit and seen some of his posts and commentary on coaching and on life and on business, and I asked him to coach me and help me through the challenge that we were having. Without getting into too many details, I can pretty safely say that I wouldn't be the man I am today, and Allegory wouldn't be the company that it is today were it not for his work. His specialty is helping us align our unconscious beliefs with our conscious goals so that we can create what we want to create a little bit more effectively. And journaling is one of the main tools that he uses to do it. Despite being really into creative writing a lot of poetry, songs, just random scribblings my whole life, which is what got me into journaling, I had never really seen it as a mental health tool. And John was the person that kind of opened that up for me. So I'm going to pass the mic over to him and let him share a couple of the exercises that he uses with his clients to help them do exactly that.
Thanks so much, Chad. Before I get started, this bag, if anyone sees me around my town, I'm carrying this thing. I've had this for probably 5 years now, and I freaking love it. Chad, thank you so much. This is like part of my wardrobe, seriously. I always carry it wherever I go. Hey, welcome everybody. Let's dive in. I got about 10 minutes, so gonna get the screen thing set up just a second. First things first, I'm gonna be sharing all my slides. So you can download them, so you don't have to worry about finding them or anything. Okay, sweet, we're off. All right, guys. So yeah, 2 journal exercises to connect you to what really matters. And like Chad said, like part of my specialty is really combining the unconscious with the conscious. Because the issue is sometimes our thoughts, they get stuck. We just get stuck in a certain positionality, a certain perspective. We form a limited perspective about ourselves. We form a limited perspective about our others, our wife, our kids, our husband, and a limited perspective about the world around us. And so part of the symptoms of forming a limited perspective, of forming a limited positionality with our mindset, with our unconscious and with our conscious, is like we find ourselves stuck in our heads. We find ourselves an increasing amount of stress, of anxiety. We find ourselves in overwhelm, thinking about things like either I do this bad thing or I do this other bad thing. Which one? Oh, I can't decide. We find ourselves losing faith or hope in ourselves, in others, in our situation. Fear and doubt increases. The inner critic in our head gets amplified. In short, we have this internal pressure. this pressure that just builds and builds. And so part of what we want to do is I want to use this picture really quick. I want you to imagine on this little graphic that you're standing there and you have these infinite potential of doors in front of you, a ton of doors, right? Hundreds to the right, hundreds to the left. And right now, this is the way life is. You really have a million choices in front of you right now. But as we go through life, we tend to sometimes unconsciously step through certain doors. And when we choose a door and we step into it, it builds walls for what's possible for us. It starts to limit our view of reality, limit our view of ourselves, of others, of our reality. And so then the new doors in front of us are fewer. And we start getting stuck. And we start stacking these positions on top of each other. And so, for example, let's say this door right here. Let's say this door right here, the very first one. Maybe it's a door like a subtle unconscious belief that I'm not good enough. That then limits the new doors available to you. Because if we have this subtle position of I'm not good enough in place, then it's going to constrict what we believe is possible for ourselves in our future. Maybe another door is like money is hard or money is evil, or another door is people can't be trusted. And so what happens just as we go through life naturally, because our brain's constantly fighting for our survival, we naturally kind of get stuck in these different positionalities. And so what I really want you to notice is that when this happens, all of these other choices, all of these other doors, we're kind of saying no to. And so as we go through life, sometimes we feel more and more stuck. Maybe not in all of life, but in certain areas, maybe in our business or with our health or with our family. And so really the name of the game is backing back out of this situation and coming back to this place of pure potential, coming home to this field of pure potential. So these journal exercises will help you gain that new perspective and that new position. They'll help you reduce being in your head, reduce stress, anxiety, and overwhelm. Often they'll restore faith or hope in ourselves or in others or in our situation. They'll reduce fear and doubt and turn down the inner critic in your head. In short, these exercises, what they've done for myself and for my clients is really diffuse that inner pressure. Even, if your inner pressure is like at 90 out of 100, even just bringing it back to 60 or 50 out of 100 can be super powerful. So I'm going to go through them really quickly. The 5-minute shifter is the first one that I want to cover. And what I want you to realize is there's a PDF available. You don't need to take notes on this. We're not going to have time to actually go through an example scenario. I'm just going to basically take you through a stack of questions, and you can get the PDF for these questions. And they're just powerful questions, and they shift your perspective. They back you out of those doors pretty quickly. So the first thing, before we go through the questions, I'm going to just teach you what the questions are. I'm not going to have time to go through them today. But the first thing I want you to realize is that this is getting on the mat with real life. This isn't like a nice and pretty log of your day. This is a mat session. And so when I have journaling, I have the bullet journaling and stuff like that. But I also have space in my journal to do these mat sessions where I'm just raw, I'm vulnerable. I'm probably not going to go back and read it again. I'm messy. And so I want to give you permission, like we've been saying, there's no wrong way to journal. I want to give you permission to have mat sessions in your journal and maybe even have a section in your journal or a specific journal just for that. So the first question I want you to ask around whatever issue you're wrestling with, whatever issue you have some internal pressure around, I want you to ask this stack of questions. It takes about 5 minutes. And the first thing is, what is the raw and uncensored truth of your experience around the issue that you're facing? And there's a couple keywords here, raw and uncensored. And it's important that you let that flow through your pen onto your journal in an uncensored way, because our positionality, our adult brain, if you will, it wants to kind of contain the story of what we're dealing with. But internally, there's another part of you that just like maybe wants to just, scream out some cuss words or something, or just be like, what is going on? And so like channeling that energy into your journal and just being raw and uncensored is so powerful, because it helps break through kind of that containment of your adult brain in that situation. Once you're able to get that out, the next question is, what is a summary of the foundational belief or thought underneath all of that energy of what you're feeling? What is a summary of the foundational belief or thought? And generally, I'll just jot it down. It's normally a belief statement, like I'm not good enough, or that person should be doing this, or why is this so hard, etc. The next question is just asking yourself, is this perspective 100% true? Yes or no? It's okay, whatever your answer is. But just asking that question, is this perspective 100% true? Is this powerful? And then journal a little while, just 30 seconds or so. How does it feel when you believe this perspective is true? How does it feel when you believe and you choose to believe that this perspective is true? And then how is holding on to this perspective impacting your life in this moment? And again, we're not looking for an essay here, just a few sentences. Just putting your attention and your mind on it is so powerful. And then the next question is, what is a new perspective that would serve you more? What is a new perspective that would serve you more? And just kind of free associate, just think about it with your pen. Just get curious, get into a place of wonder and curiosity. How would that new belief feel? What could happen in your life if you believed that the new belief was true? And then the final question, are you willing to decide on this belief for your future? And the key word here is actually decision, because it's one thing to sit there and consider things. It's another thing to make a decision that like, hey, I'm going to try this new belief. Like, kind of like taking on and off a shirt, right? Like we naturally sometimes put on a shirt, if you will, in this example, a shirt of a belief that limits us. And it's like, hey, well, maybe I'm going to take this shirt off and I'm going to try this other one over here and see if life functions a little bit better when I carry this belief for a day or two. So are you willing to decide on this belief for your future? Yes or no? And that yes is a big one. And sometimes if you're not, that's totally okay. Just the process of examining it can release a lot of energy and be really powerful. So that's the first one, the 5-minute shifter. The second tool that I use in the journal when we're hitting the mat is the truth table. Now, the truth table, it harnesses the power of the reticular activator. So the reticular activator is what happens when, if you or your family, you're shopping for a new car, or you've been looking at a new car, you tend to start seeing that car everywhere on the road, right? Like wherever you're driving, you're like, oh, there's the car, there's the model that I'm looking at. Now, the road hasn't changed, right? You've changed. You've changed what you're paying attention to, and your brain has stopped filtering information and start saying, oh, this car matters, so I'm going to start showing it to you more and more. So what happens with the truth table is often when we get stuck in a positionality, the tabletop is the topic of our concern. And our brain, whether we know it or not, is finding pieces of evidence. So using our example that I'm not good enough, if that's like a belief that we're starting to consider, our brain's going to start finding evidence that that's true wherever we look. It's going to start saying like, oh, it matters to Jonathan that he thinks he's not good enough. So let's find this leg and support that tabletop of a belief. Let's find another leg. Here's another reason why. Here's another reason why. Here's another reason why. And so really unconsciously, we start building this tabletop and all these legs. And so what the truth table does is it flips this. And so in the journal, I literally will write it out in the journal, just like you see it. I have the tabletop on the side and maybe I put in the topic. And then I'm intentionally building legs for a new perspective of truth around this that serves me instead of that holds me back. And so the question to do this is this question: what is a good feeling thought that feels true, that can be evidence of my new belief around myself, around my family, around money, whatever the topic might be that you're wrestling with? What is a good feeling thought that feels true, that can be evidence of this new belief? And I just ask that over and over and over. And what's interesting is the first one might be a little tough, and I don't care. It can be super, super small, but the first one might be a little bit tough. But as you start to train your reticular activator on this thing and you start to stack a bunch of legs up, it gets easier and easier and easier. And you realize how stuck you've been in your old positionality. And so for an example, you put in the answers. An example would be like maybe something around money. Like if any of you are feeling some internal pressure around money, and so you're like, cool, let's put some new legs underneath the tabletop that serve me. And so the first one is like, good feeling thought that feels true. Hey, I got that unexpected business deal, or, oh, I found $20 in my pocket, or I'm doing better financially than I was 3 years ago, or et cetera, et cetera. And as you start to fill these legs out, it starts to snowball and it starts to train your brain in a completely different positionality. Another example could be health. Hey, I loved playing soccer last week. There's no huge problems in my body. I found that nice sugar-free cookie recipe, been drinking more water. Jason has been super supportive, etc. And so these two journal exercises really help back you out of those doors and come to that place where you start to diffuse some of that internal pressure. the 5-minute shifter and the truth table, you can get at the PDF of all this at jonathanessen.com. Allegory, just toss in your email, give you access to all of that, some immediate download to click. And really my hope, what I want to leave you with is this. Now, I know everyone at Allegory gets freaking excited when their tools help you navigate and sail your own challenges, your fears, and the creation of your hopes and dreams. And what I really hope is that these 2 exercises have provided you with at least a seed, an idea that you can use to tackle whatever inner pressure that you might wake up facing, today, over the next few weeks, over the next few months, or the next few years. And I hope that as you wrestle with those moments for just a few minutes with your pen and in your journal, you can extract a treasure that can open up your world and open up your life to the beauty that it is, just a little bit more. Thank you so much.
All right, John, thank you so much. And thank you for the work that you've done to get to a place where you can share these ideas as well. I can speak from experience about the power of some of those concepts, having found myself in a place where I've, all those subtle beliefs that I had built up without realizing it, put me in a place where I felt like I had no options, and felt really unable to move forward. And John patiently walking me back through all those doors that I had walked through, opened up a lot of new possibilities. And here we are today, celebrating a really successful Kickstarter and a revitalized Allegory together. And so, yeah, it's awesome. Our next speaker, Meg Calvin. I met Meg through my work with John, actually. She was in a group session that we did where she was working on growing her brand while I was working on growing mine. And Meg is a really awesome author coach. She has, in addition to being a best-selling author on her own, has coached a bunch of other bestsellers through the process, from concept to creation of the work, overcoming all the obstacles during the creation phase, to actually launching and marketing the book, whether it's self-published or done through a publisher, in order to drive the success of the work at the end of the day. And she's just an awesome partner for those folks. And I know that one of the biggest challenges that we face when we're journaling is getting yourself all ready to go and looking at a blank page and just hearing crickets and not knowing where to go from there. So I wanted somebody who could speak to that and address that challenge. I reached out to Meg and she was like, yeah, that's pretty much what I do all day. So I can do that. And so she's gonna share some mindset shifts that we can use to navigate those moments. And I'm gonna pass the mic to her.
All righty. I'm so excited to be here learning and exploring with all of you today. I'm going to share my screen, maybe. What am I doing? I clicked the wrong share. Hold 1 second. Wait for it. Wait for it. There it is. I was just going to email it to all of you. You didn't have to be here with me now. That's what I was trying to do. How to find the words when they won't come. And I'm going to get rid of some of your lovely faces, lovely pictures. Okay, so sometimes, as you probably already read, you might have been to a place where you flip open your journal and you, even with your favorite pen, you can't find the words. They just won't come. Sometimes it does work to get your kids out of the space or wake up before your kids. Maybe do a grounding or centering exercise with Headspace or other apps like that. It might even work to light a candle to help you tap into your senses, to be more present. Maybe play some Anna Magdalena Bach, if you will, some cello music, soft music. But sometimes taking these steps to set your environment up, to set you up for success as a writer, they still don't work. And you mourn your lack of writing skills. You regret the time that you've wasted, and you are left utterly bewildered thinking, crap, what did I do wrong? I did all the things that blogger, that Instagram influencer said I should do. I did them all, and I just can't journal well. Can you imagine a moment like this? Perhaps you've even been there yourself before. I know I have. What if The joy of being unblocked as a writer, as a journaler, is not found in the steps that you take. What if your blocks are, in all actuality, showing up because you simply RSVP'd to the wrong invitation? Hang with me here. For most of us, when we pick up a pen and stare at the blank page, we immediately, as Jonathan has touched on, we subconsciously or consciously assume the role of one who's been invited to one of the following 5. We move with our pen like we were invited to either a written essay part of a school exam, a TED Talk stage, maybe a pew or a lecture hall, a board meeting. Oh, so boring to even say. Or we await a mountaintop experience with our deity of choice. Let's unpack these a little bit. If we subconsciously or consciously show up to our journal like a written part of a school exam, you nervously reproduce all the facts that you've retained. Oh, gotta get this done. Oh, gotta get this done. If you show up to your journal subconsciously like it's a TED Talk stage, you are forcing yourself to persuade or inspire an imaginary audience with your sexy vocabulary and oratory skills. Oh, isn't he brilliant? If you feel like journaling is that like a pew or a lecture hall, you restrictively and exclusively only use one sense to hear a monologue. If you're showing up to a journal subconsciously like it's a board meeting where you are the secretary, you forcefully record the events of the day in an unbiased, perfunctory way. Who put those big words in here? If you show up to your journal like it's a mountaintop moment with your deity of choice every single time, you ecstatically await a spiritual awakening of tears, goosebumps, and angels who sing the colors brighter in the 5D reality where all is forgiven and you finally see how everything, yes, everything belongs as you float 2 inches off of your chair, all before 7 a.m. We've all done this. We've all RSVP'd to one or all of these when we opened up our journal. But the truth is that we all got, this is a strong word, but there's a chance you got and I got the wrong invitation. When we journal, I would like to encourage us to consider that in all actuality, we have been invited to an Easter egg hunt. Such fun. Think about it. When you were a child at an Easter egg hunt, how did you show up? What was your head space? What was your heart space? What physical sensations were you feeling in your body? Chocolate. Most likely you showed up with curiosity and unfiltered joy. You just playfully observed without judgment. Unlike the headspaces that we're in when invited to the above 5 that we reviewed, when we RSVP to an Easter egg hunt, we are being with totally different thoughts. We are experiencing totally different feelings. Water break. As a kid, I'm sure you thought one or all of the following 5 thoughts that I'm about to share with you at one point or another. As we explore these 5 thoughts, we will also explore how each applies to us when we are using our journal as a tool for reflection or growth, or as a tool for creative expression toward a project. While at an Easter egg hunt as a kid, we might have thought, ooh, what's sparkling over there in the bushes? What does this mean for journaling for reflection and growth? It means that we get to get curious. What words stuck with you from conversations with others? What was it about the agenda at that meeting that made you clench your jaw and now you had a headache? When during the day was your child at her best for homework emotionally and mentally? If we're journaling for creative expression toward a project, when we think, what's sparkling over there in the bushes? We think the following. So many books are birthed by the writer asking, why not? Or what if? Greatness is born because someone was brave enough to be curious. Get curious in your journal. One of my clients was a music minister in a church, and similar to what Jonathan was teaching, had a limiting belief that she was not a strong disciple of Jesus if she experienced anger, rage, these heavier emotions, if she wasn't obliviously gleeful, happy all the time. And then after a time of great grief, she embraced the darkness, and she discovered that she started asking the question, what if good things happen in the dark? What if it's okay to be really angry and sad? What wisdom awaits me there? What comfort awaits me there when I surrender to my grief? And bada bing, bada boom, wrote this amazing book because she was brave enough to ask, but what if I felt that feeling more deeply? Another thing we ask when we are a kid at an Easter egg hunt is, oh, gross, what is this? Is this toothpaste in this egg? Journaling for reflection and growth. Reflect on what did not serve you throughout the day. Journaling for creative expression toward a project. Author Bill Hybels wrote this great book and asked this great question, and it was around holy discontent. So noticing in the field that you serve, noticing others around you in your field, what really annoys you sometimes in your field, how certain things are done, or what are some mindsets that others carry in your field that just make you darn tootin' aggravated, really piss you off. What is that holy discontent? Because there's gold there. Another client of mine was really, really, really pissed off and annoyed how churches treated those that were addicted to drugs, opioids. He's in the Ohio area. And he was really, really, really wanting to make a difference with this and help us better serve people who are addicted to drugs, especially churches. So this is his first book. And then he just had another one we just finished that's coming out soon that equips local churches to offer support programs for those that are addicted to drugs. And that came from a deep moment of holy discontent with him getting honest with what really aggravated him or pissed him off. When we're a kid at an Easter egg hunt, we find ourselves feeling and shouting, "Oh, I like this. I want more of this." So journaling for reflection and growth. Reflect on what did serve you today. What did light you up? What did feel like a total win for you? What do you want a lot more of on your calendar? We might think, oh, is this, I lost my train of thought. I don't want to say something until the next slide, so I'll just save it. Okay, and then journaling for creative expression toward a project in your field that you're serving in, whether it's your side hustle, main hustle, whatnot, hobby. Is there a style or feel, of a project that you could borrow in carrying out your project? Make tedious observations in the world around you over what it is that you really like about that style. Maybe it's another book, or it's another movie, or it's even the way a building is designed. And you're like, I want to create a vase out of clay that looks like that building, So let's take a closer look at this one just for fun. When my second book was whispering to me, it had not, as books often do, it had not told me its title yet. It had not even told me its target audience yet, which is all normal and healthy and good. But what it did tell me was that it wanted to be like if Seth Meyers and a nun were to conceive a book baby. And I know that's hard to believe because nuns are celibate, but hang with me. And if they were to conceive a book baby with Seth Meyers' satirical dry wit and this awesome nerdy theology of a nun, that would be this book. And then I just clung to that identity, and I made that book idea feel safe and heard and seen. And then it trusted me enough to show more of itself to me. But it was because I noticed, ooh, I want more of that style in my work. So noticing moments that you see things or feel things or smell things, and throughout your day, and you think, ooh, I want more of that. Another great book on this subject matter is, I'd highly recommend Steal Like an Artist by Austin Kleon. Aha, I'm glad I didn't say this. We also think when we are out and about at our Easter egg hunt as kids, I'm going to trade some with my sister so I can have more of this and less of that. I'm going to trade her for her Skittles so I can have more peanut butter cups. So I'm going to trade her. And I don't want any of these erasers, so that those can all go to my brother. So journaling for reflection and growth, write down in your journal one reasonable, doable action step for tomorrow to have or create more of what you desire. Journaling for creative expression toward a project, see above point. You see, the joy of being an unblocked writer is found in how you show up to the journal, how you show up with a pen or the keyboard. And the most fruitful journaling sessions come when you realize that you, and we might add your inner child, have actually been invited to an Easter egg hunt. As my own daughter shows underneath this pew, journaling or doodling. Now, here is me with my allegory journal and my puppy, who is now 95 pounds, but used to sit on my lap when we first got him, Rod. So there we are journaling together because he had to be part of it. So now the 5, maybe not wrong, but the other invitations that I would imagine don't really serve you toward the healing and helpful path of journaling. Those invitations that we were subconsciously or consciously receive throughout our lives, they can still serve us. They beautifully show us what journaling at its best is not. Journaling that's more like a playful Easter egg hunt is not the written part of a school exam. There is really very little skill involved in seeing eggs and putting them in your basket. There's no need to make it more difficult than it is, though we high achievers on this call today, we're really great at that. Simply write, simply put the eggs in your basket. It's not a TED Talk stage. Your words do not have to be perfectly impressive. There's no vetting system for the candy-filled eggs that we threw in our baskets. There's no judgment nor hesitation, as all eggs were good enough to toss in. The same is true for your words that we are about to move from our heart through the pen and onto the page. Journaling that's more like a playful Easter egg hunt is not a pew or a lecture hall. It is a multi-sensory dialogue between your heart, your gut, your mind, the divine, and the creation that wants to come through you in that moment. It's not a boring monologue, I misspelled monologue there, pardon. What's that? You have been invited to sit still and partake with only one of your senses. You playfully write with your whole body. From a place of loving curiosity, you notice any physical sensations that come up as you write on certain issues, topics, and then write through your reflections on this. Throughout your day, you surrender to being more mindful to smells, taste, sounds, and physical sensations. You cling to these memories, take them with you to your journal, like an overflowing pale green Easter basket. Journaling that's more like a playful Easter egg hunt is not a boring board meeting. Thank you, Jesus, where you are the secretary. I hate board meetings. Assume that your journal was an eyewitness to your entire day. It was. Assume your journal saw everything. It witnessed every single thing from your past day, week, month, life. It knows everything. It saw everything. There's no need to bore your journal with boring recaps. Focus more on your feelings, thoughts, and reactions on the day's events. Journaling that's more like a playful Easter egg hunt is not a mountaintop moment always. It's not always a mountaintop moment with insert deity of choice. These will not always occur, but the more that you accept the invitation to the Easter egg hunt, the more aware and capable of receiving these moments when you're away and in the journal that you will become. So, in closing, next time when you are struggling with writer's block, as you open your journal, before you add Palo Santo or any other step to your routine, double check your invitation. Get that thing out of your purse and double check that invitation. If you've enjoyed how and what I've taught today, I'd love to keep the conversation going. So you can follow me on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, or at megcalvin.com. And I'd love to help you, tons of free content in all those places, to help you write, market, and sell the book idea that is within you. So thank you so much for this time. It's been a pleasure.
Awesome, Meg. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's so powerful when we shift from a sense of obligation or a sense of pressure and change our mindset to be more focused on a sense of fun and exploration in anything, but journaling for sure. And I love that Easter egg hunt analogy. So thanks again, Meg. Our next presenter is Julie Madison. Julie is somebody that we met in kind of the Chicago craft scene as we were going to a show called Show of Hands, which is kind of one of the more fun ones in Chicago for a lot of folks with craft-based businesses. We met Julie through her brand, Long Dog Dandy, which it was one where she takes some of her illustration work and puts it on a whole bunch of fun projects, and really has a really cool perspective. So she's also a educator and professional illustrator, has done a lot of commissioned work as an artist, and has a resume as long as your arm, including back in 2019. We had the opportunity to invite Julie to, in 2021, we had the opportunity to invite Julie to join the Allegory team, and she accepted and has been in the trenches with us, helping us make all these journals that you folks have ordered through Kickstarter. And she's just a ray of sunshine to have around the office, and a lot of artistic talent. And I know a lot of times we might judge our journals as not pretty enough. So I wanted to let Julie bring her unique brand of sunshine to this particular presentation and give us all something a little bit of fun to help some of the deeper concepts that we looked at today go down. So Julie, take it away.
I'm not sure that anybody has ever described me as a ray of sunshine before, when I'm a little bit of a self-described nihilist, but cool. Thanks for that, Chad.
Well, there's like sunshine in the nihilism though. Like it I don't know. There's this
happy nihilism.
Yeah, I don't know. I experience it as sunshine. So
well, good. Hi, everyone. I'm Julie. I'm the owner and illustrator over at Long Dog Dandy, which actually turns 10 next month, which is wild. And my career goes back a ways before that. And I've picked up a lot of tricks along the way to get through those ups and downs, slumps in creativity. There are a lot of them. They happen. Don't worry about it. And so let's get started. On how to make your journal beautiful, even if your handwriting and drawing sucks. So first, you need to get into the right brain space for this. And to do that, you have to throw Pinterest, Instagram, Facebook out the window. They're not real. They're really carefully curated to look authentic, a lot of the time by professionals, a lot of the time to sell you stuff. So it's a great place to find some inspiration, but it can be a complete black hole for your motivation and can lead you down this path of comparing yourself to the likes, to all of that stuff. You don't want to do that. So I found that the joy of creating personally really swung back around when I started limiting my time on those apps, especially pro tip. Hide the like count on Instagram. It makes you feel a lot better. And just, you can't hold yourself to a golden standard for something that is probably either touched up in Photoshop or has a filter slapped over it anyway. So go ahead and limit yourself, limit your obligation to share every piece of yourself, including your journal and planner, because here's the thing, fuck Everyone, your journal is for you. It is a sacred space. It is meditative and it is a personal experience. You are your audience here. You need to give yourself permission to do what feels natural, do what feels right, and make a pact with yourself to relieve whatever pressure you're feeling on spending time with this. And all of that pressure, it's so self-imposed, it's not real. And don't stress about your handwriting, don't stress about your drawing. Just do what's coming natural. And now that we are just about ready to put pen to paper, the last thing is don't make it precious. There are no mistakes. Nothing is off limits. Nothing is wrong. Perfection's super overrated anyway. So don't be afraid to clash colors. Don't be afraid if that line's a little wobbly. And, you know, maybe the accidental pen stroke is what it needed anyway. So now we're gonna switch over to a demo pretty quickly, but let's go over what we're gonna do. We're gonna not overwhelm yourself. We're gonna start out with just a couple little tricks to get you started. I'm gonna show you some really basic lettering stuff that I picked up early in my days as a signage artist. We're gonna show you a couple hand-drawn banners you can use to jazz up your journal. And then we're gonna also reclaim the art of the doodle. So I'm gonna stop my screen share and we are gonna head on over to the demo. Uh-oh, whoops, just kidding. All right, so just to start off, I'm gonna show you what supplies I'm using. You can use anything, do not limit yourself. You can use your kids' broken crayons, you can use pens. I'm just gonna use a couple basic highlighters and a ballpoint pen. So absolutely nothing fancy here. So let's start out with that lettering. So if you've got a journal with a dot grid or lines, you can use those to your advantage, or you don't need to worry about it. So first, just take a color and write a word. Super easy. Now you want to go back in and kind of thicken up the strokes. And I like to thicken them in different spots and leave them thinner in other spots, make it a little bit playful. But you can be really uniform and you can go back in, you can use, you can outline, you can do stripes, you can do polka dots, you can do whatever. But right now I'm going to show you how to do some highlights and some lowlights. So think about where the light would be coming in. For the purposes of this, I'm going to do it from the top left, but you can do it from the bottom, you can do it from the side, whatever you're feeling. So I'm going to take this brighter color of highlighter, and I'm just going to pretend the light is coming down, hitting right here, and just kind of put some pops of color on those sides. And now I'm going to come back in with that ballpoint pen, which is a darker color, and I'm just going to hit the other edges. And you can already see how that's bringing some depth to your lettering and making it a little bit more fun, right? Super simple. Anyone can do it. All right. So next up, I'm going to show you how to do a few banners. And this one, you start with just a regular rectangle. Anyone can draw a rectangle. And then you pull down these little half C shapes and you connect them to your rectangle. And I like to fill them in with some lines to make them look like they're darker and behind. And then just go right off of those edges and make some tails. Boom, you made a banner. And you can do that same thing that you do with the highlights and the lowlights. You can take your highlighters, you can color it in, just have fun with it, patterns. But suddenly, Monday looks a lot nicer. And so we can do a couple different versions of these banners. The second one that I like to do, it's really similar, but you start with more of a swoopy S shape instead of a rectangle. And again, you pull it down, but instead of doing the other side, we're going to go up to this side and pull it up there and add the tails that way. And then the last one, it's going to be a big, long connecting banner. So I start with that rectangle in the middle, and then I fan 2 other ones out. So top and bottom. And then I'm going to go ahead and connect all of these and then do those swoops again on the ends. And then you can color these guys in to give it some more depth. So if you got a longer thing you want to say, or just want to have fun with a big long banner, here you go, you got it. So now that you've learned some banners, we're going to get into doodling. Did you ever draw on all your margins in high school? If you didn't, it was fun. You should bring that back right now. So I like to just, I mostly like to draw my dog. I don't know if anyone can see him in the back behind Chad, but he's a big, large, noodle-like horse dog. So he shows up in my doodling a lot. It's really great. If you don't know where to start, a really, really simple way to start with doodling is just make a little spiral and then do semicircles around it. You can do the semicircles different sizes. You can rotate them. It's great because the semicircles are super modular and you can kind of just put them off of your letters. You can put them off of your words. You can fill in a ton of space and you can go back in with your highlighters. You can use lines, you can bring them down and do patterns. The important thing here is just remember to play and be open to playing. All right, so do you not know where to draw and you don't really want to draw circles?
Hold on, I'm going to interrupt with a really important dog update because you mentioned Stanley and people are asking about him in the chat.
He's amazing.
That is him, folks. That's Stanley. Dear God, what kind of creation is he? He's gorgeous, though.
He is an anteater, beautiful noodle horse.
And that's Russian for what again?
Corpse explosion, at least according to Brian. It's actually Russian for fast. He is a fast dog. Anyway. So this last one I'm going to teach you to do is, it's a nice little exercise if you're not really sure what you want to draw. So go ahead and take a color, like preferably a highlighter because it's nice and loose, but really whatever, and just make a blob. Make a big old weird blob. And now you're going to look at that blob and you're going to look at it like it's a cloud in the sky and try and find the shape of that blob and figure out what it is. So let's see, like, maybe it's got some legs. Maybe it's a cat. Whee. So you can make a kitty blob. Let's do it again. I'm gonna take the highlighter again. Making shapes. All right, so let's find the shape of this one. It's got like a tooth down here. And I think it is a dinosaur. Boom. All right, you know how to draw. Let's come back. Hang on. Bring the video back to me. All right. So in short, ultimately, the only barrier to your journal not being beautiful or pretty is yourself. So you want to let go of that. You want to have your own confidence because what you do is great and you know it. It's going to be awesome. Hopefully some of these tips and tricks kind of get your gears moving a little bit in your brain, but really it's all about the mindset. It's all about the confidence. And remind yourself that nothing matters, and not in that like nihilistic, really sad way, but it can be super freeing. It can be happy nihilism. It's great. So I want you to go out there, get out there, draw. Don't be afraid of it. You're fine. Make it beautiful.
Awesome, Julie. You know, and I thought a lot of like the typical when somebody describes somebody as a ray of sunshine, I definitely That was a dirty lie. Julie is not the kind of person who would show up and you would be like, oh, look at that ray of sunshine. But I guess for me, I'm like a hyper realistic person, like maybe sometimes even a little pessimistic about some things. And so like polished or manufactured beauty never really resonates with me, like, because I can see all the BS that was used to polish it.
Me neither.
Yeah. And Julie's work as an artist and kind of what makes her, I think why I feel ray of sunshine around her is that she looks at the beauty that's in the mess and sees it and draws attention to it with her artwork and also just who she is. So I think maybe that's why it comes off like a ray of sunshine to me. So anyway, guys, yeah. So great job. Thanks presenters for all of your time. We do have some questions. Brian, why don't you take a minute and go ahead and you can pull up your journal spread and just specifically answer for Crystal exactly how those tasks can be either weekly or daily, maybe by pointing out the weekly and daily squares or whatever makes sense.
Sure, I can do that. Please hold.
Loading.
I totally didn't close out my thing without
No, okay. Well, while you're doing that, I'll take one of the ones that came up in the Q&A. Somebody asked about, is journaling really better digitally, right? And there's some answers in text on that, but I want to point out, obviously having a phone in your pocket all the time, having a device in your pocket all the time, the accessibility of that device and the ability to store infinite amounts of pages and all of those things. Those are advantages that pen and paper doesn't have. I will say though, like as Brian's getting ready here, I will say that there is a fair amount of research that the tactile experience of writing on paper does engage different aspects of your brain. It does fire different parts of your mindset and your personality. And at the end of the day, this process of journaling and reflecting is really just about whatever works for you. So are there people out there for whom capturing a few ideas on their phone and keeping the ball moving forward with the rest of their life makes sense? Absolutely. This isn't a one size fits all thing. I think it's whatever fits your situation best. Speaking from my personal experience, I mentioned earlier that I've ADHD, and I've found that digital apps tend to, if I try to use a digital app to stay organized, that button for that app is next to so many other buttons that do all kinds of fun, flashy things. Social media and the connection to millions of friends and people that, very, very few of whom I actually know, and even fewer than those opinions really matter to me. But if I look at them, then that can grab my attention. There's just so many other things in a digital environment that can take your attention away from the thing you're deciding to focus on. So for me, pen and paper is really powerful because it brings focus. I don't have the option of swapping to 50 different browser tabs in the middle of the work that I'm doing on pen and paper. So
I agree.
It goes either way. Sorry, go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, no, I agree. So I think there's flexibility in both. The digital flexibility is so easy that in the past I have spent more time messing around with it and creating what I think I'm going to use than actually using it. Whereas with my journal, I tend to be more committed to using what I make because it took a little time to do it, right? So like there's more of an investment there. I've had, Amazing Marvin and Todoist and Evernote, and I've had amazing setups and all of them that I neglected. So yeah, for me that analog aspect, also as someone with ADHD, the analog aspect creates a lot more, connection with, and like the mindfulness of needing to have my book and sit down with it, because I'm always digital. I'm always in my phone in one way or another. So having my journal be a distinct thing makes me more likely to associate it with what it's supposed to be doing, kind of like what you were saying, Jeff. Okay, let me answer Crystal's question if you don't mind. Where's the thing with the stuff? Okay, can you see my screen? Can you guys see my screen?
Yeah.
Yep.
Can you see my mouse?
Yep.
Yes.
Yay. Okay. So the question was, somebody was asking, how do you assign tasks to days or weeks in Frankenlog. So all tasks are written down here at the bottom. And I actually had, there we go. So all tasks are written down at the bottom. And when I want to assign a task to a certain day or week, I give it a letter. So like say, push the button, which is a nice nebulous thing that I'll never admit to what it means. And so I take my push the button, which is the letter A. It's something I want to do every 10 days. So I put my letter A here, I put it here, I put it here. So now I don't have to write push the button 3 different times. I can just put it on the days that I want to do it. Even if it's just a single day thing that I'm going to do, that I have to, whatever, go to Best Buy, do Best Buy returns, right? I put that down for the 8th. I just put the letter C up there. So when I'm going through and planning for the day, I can just look and see what things I have to do and look down here to see what they are. If it's something I want to do, like a task that I want to do during the week, if it's something that I need to do every week, then I can actually just put the letter over here. Each week has its own box. So maybe it doesn't have to be done on a certain day. I just have to get it done sometime this week. Part of the journaling habit for me is a daily review. In the morning, I get up and I look at my journal and I see what I need to do. I look at my weekly things that are there and I decide if today is the day to do it. They're not put over there to be parked and forgotten. They're put over there to be, reviewed to decide when I'm going to do it. I also have a box to do that for the month. So something that just needs to be done by the end of the month. I suspect taxes will go in here. And next month, if there's something that needs to get scheduled for next month, because I don't make my monthly logs until the month begins, this gives me a place to park things. So that's sort of the general rundown on where I hide things or hide things, where I put things in, how I assign them to the days and the months.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks. I see, Crystal, that got to the answer for you in chat. If anybody else wants to raise their hand or post anything in Q&A, and I'll even open this up to the other panelists. If you had a question about one of the other presenters' work that you wanted to ask, rock on with that. So let's see, do we get any hands raised for questions? So there should be a raise hand button in your chat. Going once, going twice. Sold. All right. So it looks like everybody was pretty clear in their presentations. Not a ton of questions. That was definitely my experience of them too. And with the recording, we can always go back and check on stuff. So what happens next with this resource? We will be sharing a recording. So you can go back, and if there was a particular slide that was super impactful to you, you can pause and take a look at it. Several of the presenters will also be providing downloads of their slides and resources. And we will provide a download link for that in the update where we provide the link to the video on YouTube. So you'll have access to all the resources in one place. We'll also provide links to the social accounts, websites, and all of that for the other presenters so that you can stay in touch with them and access all the resources that they talked about in their presentation. So we'll give you a nice little one-stop shopping update on that probably tomorrow because it takes a little bit for the video to download and encode and all that fancy stuff. We got one more Q&A come in. Somebody had emailed us a question. We did get it. So John and I wanted to hop on and just answer it real quick. Question comes from Andrew, and the question is, I'm prone to strong emotions, ups and downs. How I feel in the thick of things isn't always relatable to me later. So every time I take up journaling, I end up cringing what I've written. I cringe to read what had been important to myself in the heat of a past moment. Do you deal with that same disconnect between your past and present self? And if so, how do you engage with that? So yeah, just like I was journaling and I was really experiencing a lot of emotion. I wrote stuff down and I came back later and read it. And it kind of made me go, ugh, what was I thinking? I know I've had some of those moments. John, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, Andrew. Great question, man. My first thought is you're not static. You're not static. So I use journaling for different different things. But to process, like especially to process the ups and downs, I don't tend to revisit what I've put in my journal. I actually use my journal as a place for parts of me to express. It doesn't mean it's the entirety of me, but right now I could tap into a part of me that might be angry about something, or a part of me that might be sad about something, or on those ups, on those highs and lows. And sometimes those parts of me are louder than other times, and so what you're talking about there is that wave. So I wouldn't get too stuck on defining yourself in the moment from a picture of part of you in the past. And the journal is a powerful tool to express and get that energy out, if you will, and to just really tell the truth of your experience moment by moment. But going back and judging your past experience, probably it wouldn't serve me too much. There's a lot when I use my journal to just express kind of like when I was talking about that first exercise in the recording. If you haven't watched the recording, watch that. I don't go back and revisit that necessarily when I'm telling the raw truth of my experience that moment. I don't put on the hat to like, oh, is that who I am? I realized that part of me was expressing in that moment. I was giving it the safety to do so. So yeah, I hope that helps. Yeah. What are your thoughts, Chad? You have any other thoughts?
Well, yeah, no, I'm actually just reminded of us having a very similar conversation at one point. I was journaling and I was experiencing like little flashes of like violence in my kind of just flashing across my imagination. And it really got to me. It really, because it made me afraid, I guess, that I was that person, that I was somebody who would do those things. And, your response to me at that time, John, was you are not your thoughts, right? Like we have our thoughts, we have our brain's this big problem solving engine, and it can generate pictures and images and things like that. But there's another part of us that chooses how to respond to all of those images and chooses what to do with all of those thoughts and translate them into action and translate them into the real world. So, if part of you happened to have a big emotional flare up around a certain thing, but later on, the part of you that observes that and chose something different, great, great. And all of you is represented in that bigger picture. You're not defined by that, those few words that you wrote down a few days ago. So,
Love it.
So yeah. All right, Andrew, I really hope that this stuff hits home for you. We really wanted to make this whole project a resource that could have a positive impact on people's lives. The comments that we've already seen on the project is showing lots of people that have already been using this as an opportunity to get more mindful about things that they're navigating. For us, I mentioned to some of you that we've been caring for, elderly parents for a while. And I mentioned in the recent project update that mom had a stroke. I'll let all of you know she's recovering really well, way ahead of expectations. And it was really cool to see one or two of the folks who backed the project to say they were in the same situation, navigating nursing home decisions and things like that. So to know when we put the time and effort and energy to create something like this, to see it be as successful as it was is incredible. It was a huge life goal of mine to have a Kickstarter this size, but also to know that it's being received in the spirit in which it was created means the world to us. And we couldn't be happier to have all of you on this journey along with us. So thank you for everything. I hope that both the journals and this webinar are a super awesome resource for you. And as always, reach out to us if there's anything we could do to make it better. So talk to you soon. And that's a wrap, folks.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Chad.
Have a good one, everyone.